Welcome to the Freedom Real Estate Podcast with your boy, Andrew Frieden. And I am excited to welcome Marco Epifani. Did I pronounce that correctly?
No.
I've only known you forever, but
That's right. Yeah. It's Marco Epifani.
Epifani. Thank you very much. Marco is an absolute killer. This guy has flipped hundreds of homes. He's a top investor-focused agent, owned a construction company, probably did 20 other things I don't know about. So I am excited to have Marco here. He's really going to dive into high quality sales skills and how that can really make you bank in business. So Marco, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Andrew.
So Marco, bring us back to baby Marco. Like, what gave you the drive to really seek entrepreneurship as a youngster or in general?
You know, Andrew, that's a great question. And I was reflecting on this recently because I was going through my phone and I saw this old video of me when I was 19 and it was just me. I was talking to the camera.
Yep.
And I was like, I never posted the video, but it was meant for social media. And I was like, hey guys, my name is Marco. I'm 20 years old. I'm going to buy my first flip in the next 90 days. And at the time, Andrew, I was working as a bartender. And I was doing decent by all conventional metrics. I was like 2021. I was making 60, 70 grand a year bartending. I had a super fun job, you know. And then I remember one point very clearly. I always aspired to be a millionaire, which I am now, which is cool. But at the time, I was so overwhelmed because it took me 3 months to save 10 grand. And I did the math and I was like, well, fuck. If it's going to take me 3 months to save 10 grand, it's going to take me 30 years at this current pace to become a millionaire. And a millionaire just had a nice ring to it. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to be a millionaire. When I was young and I thought of a millionaire, I was like, oh, these people are wealthy. But yeah, that was the moment. And I was like, okay, I got to find other ways to make money. And I remember I was talking to one of my friends who was wealthy at the time, probably the wealthiest person I knew. His name was CJ. And I was like, CJ, how do I make more money? And he said, Marco, why don't you sell real estate? I was like, well, I could sell real estate. Why should I sell real estate? He goes, it's on average, the biggest transaction people are going to make in their life. And you get paid a commission off the sale price. So instead of selling shots for like $10, $12, I started doing super high-end sales comparatively. Like even a $200,000 house back at the time was like a lot bigger of a sale than what I was doing before.
So when did you like shift your viewpoint from sales being just part of your job to being a craftsman of sales and really studying it? And what was kind of the first book or resource you found very, very helpful?
So I think I got into sales, like started studying sales when I was working and I had no sales. I was like,
as a bartender?
No, as a salesperson in real estate. Okay. I was working, I was busy all the time, but I wasn't really effective all the time. I wasn't really executing all the time. And real estate doesn't reward you for being busy. It rewards you for execution. So I was like, okay, I got to sit back a little bit. Where am I doing it wrong? I'm getting some leads. I'm not converting the leads. And I feel like a lot of agents can relate to that because a lot of agents could generate leads, but they have no closings, no escrows. So then I started researching sales. And I remember for a full year, I would read a book a week. One was on sales, one was on marketing. One was on sales, one was on marketing. There's a lot of great ones out there. A lot of great ones. But I started studying them and then I would practice them. And this is, even when in my team right now, I notice a lot of the people aren't doing the drills at home.
Like, give us one example of a drill you can do to enhance your sales skills.
Okay, I'll give you an example.
Quick example.
If you don't know your script, you got to memorize your fucking script.
Okay.
And the reason you need to memorize your script is because not every conversation is going to go like the script, but you need to be able to pick off and leave off where it's a good time for the script.
But not only the script, you also have to study the decision-making tree, right? Yeah. Because depending on where the conversation goes, you can branch off to 4 or 5 different directions.
Exactly. You know, and you should have all that mapped out, and you should know what you're going to say in those situations before they arise.
Wait, so you're telling me you should actually be intentional about sales up front rather than just winging it?
Correct.
And that actually works?
You can wing it.
Okay.
Okay, you can wing it. So there's 2 types of people in sales that I notice.
Okay.
There's the people that close on instinct. And those people, it takes them a lot longer to get it. But once they get it, they master it really, really quickly. And then there's the people who try to learn sales on intelligence. And they typically progress a little bit faster in the beginning, but it takes a lot longer to master it. Okay, so you can have a killer sales instinct, but it still needs to be refined. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So, and more, and you're an unusual person because I think you got into real estate to seek wealth, right? And
Yes.
then while you were in real estate, you came across sales. And the more you were in real estate, the more you realized that you like sales more than actually investing, right?
Yes. Yes, although I still invest, I enjoy the deal making process way more than the asset process. Because even you, when you buy properties, you have to go through this whole slew of things, right?
Totally.
Yeah, I don't like that process, but I really enjoy the deal making part of it.
Okay. So then when you first got into real estate, you in a mere what, 3 or 4 years, you got like a couple hundred flips under your belt, right? Like walk us through
Yeah.
that shift because you went from what, house hacking to flipping
Hmm.
dozens of properties
Yeah.
all at once, right?
Yeah, even now I'm still flipping. I have 8 active flips and I have a few new construction deals that I'm working on. 3 that I might build on. Some I just might broker the land to another developer. But I started off, Andrew, 1920. I sold my first few properties. I got the leads from Zillow. The leads were absolutely way too expensive and they sucked. But I was able to get my first closings. So then I went back to some of the people I knew in the industry, like the friend who I took out to lunch. And he had some multifamily property.
Okay.
And I realized, you know what? On average, according to NAR, the National Association of Realtors, people sell a house every 7 years.
Mm.
Andrew, how many houses did you sell this year?
How many houses did I sell
Or
this year?
properties in general? How many transactions? Ballpark.
I don't know. It was like 50 million transactions.
Way more than one deal every 7 years, right?
Absolutely.
So I realized this trend as an agent. And I was like, instead of grinding so hard to build this pipeline that I'm
Yep.
going to monetize once every 7 years, let me cater to this other audience, the
Yep.
investor audience, because they're going to give me multiple transactions each year.
Totally.
They're still buying. So I did that. And then my first deal, Andrew, I was going to wholesale to one of my investors. I was going to make 10 grand. It was going to be great. At the time, 10 grand, like 2019, 2018, 10 grand was a lot of money to me. And the guy called me a week before closing. It was a little 2-family in Putnam. That was the deal. It was 3,000 square feet and change.
Okay.
And it was worth around 180. I wrote letters to get the leads. The lead came in. I meet with her. I get coffee. I'm like, yeah, your property's probably worth around 180. She's like, I need to sell it right now. I'm like, okay, I can put it on the market on 180, or I can have some of my investors walk through before it hits the market.
Yep.
My investor walks through. He tells me to offer 120. I was like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. I just told the lady it's worth 180. Now you're going to come in at 120? He goes, offer 120, see what happens. Okay, so my clients were kind of educating me on how to negotiate.
Yep.
So I threw out 120, she takes it. And I'm like, holy shit, that's 30% less than current value. And the current value that I had was already much less than market value. Does that make sense? Like I hadn't made adjustments for condition. So we get the deal under agreement. He calls me a week before closing. He says, Marco, I have terrible news. I can't close on this deal. I just bought another business. And I'm like, no, my $10,000 check. But then I sat back for a minute, Andrew, and I was like, you know what? This is a fucking killer deal. I should buy it. And keep in mind, I had no way to buy this deal at the time. I knew no hard money lenders. My broker was no help whatsoever. I was like, I got to buy this. Most brokers don't incentivize, like, they want you to keep selling real estate and collect splits. They don't want you to build wealth.
Of course. And then you don't need to give them splits. You don't need to sell real estate, right?
Yeah, exactly. So my broker, absolutely no help. But I called everybody I knew, and I was able to get a personal loan for 10 grand from a friend. I was able to get hard money financing for just the acquisition. They didn't fund rehab. So I took the money, I put it for the down payment, I closed on the house, and I got in there, Andrew, and I was like, I have no money to fix this crib. I had none. So then I put all the repairs on my credit cards, did all the repairs myself because I didn't have enough money on my credit cards. I was like 20 at the time. I didn't have enough money on my credit cards to actually go ahead and hire the contractors and do everything. So I did most of the work. So my friends helped me for free in exchange for beers and pizza. And then 4 months later, I sold that house and I made $123,000. I still remember the name. I have a picture of the check.
Wow.
123 grand. And that was the real start. Then so my friends that helped me on that project, I helped them buy their first crib. And then I went from 1 to 3. I went from 3 to 5, from 5 to 7. And then I started buying some commercial assets that really bumped the numbers up.
Yeah, I think you bring up a lot of good points there. And I think like one of the great points you bring up is really understanding how the real estate market works, right? Because you, rather than working with single family buyers that buy a house every 7 years. You went to the actual investor that buys multiple properties
Yes.
a month, right? And I think truly understanding how real estate works is really how you build wealth. Like, I'll just give you another example, like cash out refinances, right? Like for a cash out refinance, the average people on average do a cash out refinance or refinance their property with 5 to 7 years, right? So let me ask you this: why would somebody pay an extra point for 30-year money when they could buy a 5-year arm fixed rate or a 7-year arm? Like, why would somebody do that? Because they don't understand the mechanics of how real estate actually works, right? And when you truly understand that, that's when you can really build a lot of wealth.
Yeah. And there's a lot of levers that you can pull in real estate. Lots of levers. Like the financing, like you said, that's absolutely one of the biggest levers. That's going to make, like, dude, a 3% difference on a rate is a massive difference.
Oh, yeah.
Massive
That's
difference.
thousands of dollars in your pocket every month.
Right? And it's only 3%. It's
Yeah.
like a small number, but because that lever is so powerful, it can go either direction.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. So bring us back to that deal. You made $120,000. Obviously, the deal went very, very well. What was one of the biggest lessons you learned from that deal, either good or bad?
I think one of the biggest lessons from that deal was you can't be afraid to take a bet on yourself. Because I remember I was fucking scared. And then there was a lot of negativity around me on that deal too, Andrew. Like, you have to understand, my parents, they weren't super supportive of that deal when I bought it. I was still young. You know what I'm saying? A lot of the people in my circle were like, why are you doing this? And then when I was working there, they were like, why are you working on this? So there was a lot of negativity around it until I actually had success. And I feel like that's a very common experience that most people go through towards their journey to success.
Rich dad, poor dad, ignore the noise, right?
Yeah.
Right. It's so important because everybody wants to give you their opinion, but ultimately, do they have the expertise to give you their opinion? And if the answer to that is no, it's just noise, right? Like, trust me, your family members, I'm sure it came from a good place that they didn't want you to lose all your money, but ultimately they know nothing about real estate investing.
Yeah.
Right. So why would they give you advice on that? Or why would you take advice on that? Right.
Yeah. And you kind of have to, like, move to the drum of your own thing, like you can't let the noise slow you down. Sometimes the noise, it's like important to listen to and hear like what's going on in a different reality. But I believe as entrepreneurs, Andrew, we create our own reality. Like, and the reality isn't real. Like your reality and my reality, completely different realities, but we are creating a reality and living by it. You know what I'm saying? So if you let the noise come in and affect that reality, maybe it's not great, but sometimes it's great to kind of hear what other people's reality is and see how close you are to the actual objective truth. The actual objective truth was I bought a property for half of what it's worth. That was the actual objective truth. And I proved it by selling it for twice as much as I paid for it. I think I sold it for like $237.
Yeah.
Something like that. So like, yeah, it's big lever. It really depends on like what you're willing to go through as an entrepreneur to reach that kind of success.
Absolutely. And taking advice from the right people. You took that advice from CJ, and you ignored the noise from the people who didn't have the expertise to give you advice. And lo and behold, you made $120,000.
Right. And not only that, like a big part of the reason I listened to CJ, Andrew, and I didn't talk about this during the story. I was also thinking about starting a plowing business because I thought, okay, I can plow driving like 15 minutes with the truck.
Yeah.
I can, every snowstorm, I can do this many snowstorms. You know why I decided to get the real estate license instead of snow blowing?
Why?
Because the truck was like $40,000 and the license was like $800.
Yeah.
It was such a like ridiculous thing. Oh my God. I was like, oh my God, $800.
Yeah.
It's like a few shifts.
I mean, you bring up a great point. It's like, anybody in real estate that doesn't have their license is a freaking idiot. First of all, it's such a low barrier to entry. It's only like $1,000, right? You literally could represent yourself and you could pay for it 10 times over in one transaction.
Correct. And not only that, I also think if you become a licensed real estate agent, you join a brokerage. That brokerage is going to have a massive input on how you perform. Let's say you're stuck in a complicated transaction. It's nice to be able to talk to somebody else who might have that relevant experience that you work with.
Saying? That, right? Or in addition, I would say you get access to their network, right? For example, I'm part of a Candor investment group. John Mombachi, he owns 1,000 doors. There's 50, 60 investors in that network. If I run across an issue and I pose my dilemma to that network, I guarantee somebody has a solution. I guarantee somebody ran across that issue and they have that expert that I should listen to get me over that dilemma.
Right. Yeah, that's what I think one of the biggest, boons is, especially if you're working for like a solid broker. That most realtors are just they open doors and close doors. Some brokerages set them up like deal makers. Does that make sense? And there's a big difference between a deal maker and a realtor.
Yeah.
And I think if you're in an environment full of deal makers, guess what's going to happen to you?
Gonna
Make deals.
Yeah. No, I mean, to your point, Marco, you are one of the best deal finders I know. I mean, I've done how many transactions with you over the course of a couple years?
I don't know.
Yeah, we don't even know because you always find good deals, right? But not only that, you bring it to the right person, right? Because you can find a great deal, but if they don't close, it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. And even the way we structure the deals is different most times, isn't it?
Absolutely. And ultimately, like, and I think you and I both understand, like, I don't care how much you get paid as long as there's money in it for me to be made.
Absolutely.
Right?
Win-win.
And you structure your deals that way. If you see the deal slim, you'll take a lower cut versus if there is a big cut, you'll take a bigger cut. So I do respect that about you as a deal finder.
Yeah. I mean, if I win, we all win.
Exactly.
If you win, we all win.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the biggest lessons in business is how can you create win-wins for everybody? How can everybody in your sphere get paid off of this upside?
Right? And how can we make it fair? And how can we make it just? Like even when I wholesale you deals, Andrew, I understand most of the work is on the back end. I factor that into the price. I wouldn't pitch you a deal where I'm like, oh, there's not that much work that needs to be done at the back end. Like you want that value add. You want to create that equity.
Totally.
So I can understand that. Whereas other investors, I know they're much more retail. They don't want to touch shit. So if I have a retail deal, am I going to bring it to you? Probably not.
And I probably wouldn't buy it either.
You probably wouldn't buy it either. And we all waste time.
Yeah.
But you typically look at the deals I send you because you think they are good deals. Yeah. Does that make sense? And I feel like, especially in this space where you're working with investors and working with the developers, they get pitched shit deals all the time. So the amount of deals that they might get a ton of deals, but they're only really looking at a few, right? And the few that you kind of have to target that the same way you wouldn't sell a 6-bedroom house to somebody who's looking for like a single-story ranch. It's you kind of have different factors when you're working with investors. I also know you don't really like condos or single families. Not going to pitch them to you, but if I found like a 12 unit in Worcester,
Absolutely. So, yeah, but just going back to that point about, win-wins, I think like for one of my strategies, I get to give upside to anybody bringing me a deal, right? Like you get to participate in the deal, you get a percentage of the upside, typically 10% for bringing me the deal, right? That literally costs me nothing, right? But if the deal's successful, they make money, I make money. Next time they run across a bigger deal, who do you think they're going to bring it to?
Yeah.
Right? So, you had your first house hack, right? And then, you decided I'm going to flip 100 homes all of a sudden. Like, first of all, how'd you make that decision? And second of all, how did you sharpen your sales skills during that big endeavor?
So, yeah, that's a good question, Andrew. I really wanted to get rich, Andrew.
Okay.
And you give a 20-year-old a $120,000 check. Like somebody that's hungry, brother, they're not going to be like, oh, I'm set. I wasn't set, dog. I wanted way fucking more.
YOLO.
Yeah, you only live once. I wanted to get paid way more.
Okay, you went to the roulette table and you put it all on 32.
Yeah, and it
hit. Okay, it hit. Okay.
And it hit.
Okay.
So then I was like, damn, I got to do this over and over again so I can keep collecting these checks. Same thing that happened to me when I got my first commission check. I remember it. It was $8,000. I had a 50-50 split with my broker. I kept like $4,000 or something like that. And I went to the bank and I deposited to the bank. And to that date, it was the biggest check I had ever received.
Yeah.
That $4,000. Okay. And then the first thing that went through my head, you know what it was, Andrew?
What?
I need more of these checks. I need more of them. How can I get more? So I took that $4,000, reinvested it. The way I sharpened my sales skills, man, was literally the same way you sharpen anything else. I had put myself in an environment where it was not okay to fail, where I had to improve, holding costs, just all these costs were adding up. And then I just started selling all day and I did tons and tons of reps. Even this week I was cold calling. Do I care that I was it wasn't a big deal. It was like I was with somebody from my team. They're like, hey, I need to build my pipeline. Can you help me? I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Start dialing. We did like 84 dials in an hour. Nothing crazy, but we got 3 leads. So even to this day, I keep working on the sales skills. And you can't, in my opinion, it's not like you stop selling and your skills stays flat. I don't think it works that way. I think you stop selling and then you keep going down. Like you keep losing skill, losing skill, losing skill. Whereas if you keep selling, if you keep that skill active, it keeps improving and improving and improving. And I've been keeping that skill active for 8 years now. You know,
It's like working out with a muscle, right?
exactly. Yes, the sales muscle. You know, it must be developed, and then once it's developed, it must be protected. And I think this is a big issue in real estate, okay? People think real estate is oversaturated. Okay? Mediocrity is oversaturated. There's a huge demand for really good people with really good skills. You know, execution is not saturated. Like, yeah, there might be thousands of agents that don't close deals every year. That's fine. It's not the issue. The issue is your skills. Does that make sense? There's very few things that are nearly as profitable as selling real estate.
The two best skills anybody can learn, in my opinion, sales and project management. Those two skills, you can create a multi-billion-dollar organization.
Agreed.
Yep. And I think there's something to be said that, I was a certified project manager. You're an excellent salesman, and lo and behold, we're both millionaires, well above people our age.
Right? Doing well. Living
Doing
life.
well.
Enjoying it too. Because
Exactly.
it can't just be all about making money, right, Andrew? Like, we take trips together, we travel the world. Like, there's got to be more than just making money. But in terms of making money, you have to get that shit right.
Absolutely.
You have
And
to get your money right.
I totally agree with you. And that's one of my 2026 goals is I want to buy less, optimize what I have, and enjoy life more. Because, to your point, you work so hard, but at the same time, you have to enjoy the fruits of your labor.
Yeah. Why work so hard if you're not going to enjoy it?
Totally. So you flip properties, you represented buyers. Like, how do your negotiation tactics differ from when you purchase properties off market versus when you're maybe representing a buyer or a seller in a listing?
Okay, that's a great question. You have to understand that there is a major difference between retail buyers and investor buyers. You
It's true.
understand this. People in this podcast might not understand it. Andrew, you don't give a fuck about the floor covering. Pardon my language, do you?
No, I could care less.
Right? It's all about the numbers, the money.
Yeah, show me the calculator.
Show me the cash. Regular homeowners, they don't care that much about the money. They've accepted that they're going to make a big transaction. They just want their house to be good.
Okay.
They don't want to have to worry about a leaking roof or anything like that. Whereas somebody like you might be like, ooh, leaking the roof, I can get a discount. You know what I'm saying? So it's a completely different mindset. But what I bring to the table for both groups is the negotiation tactics. You tell me what's important. We will fight to get that for you. And we will win because we win. You know what I'm saying? I don't really lose negotiations. Sometimes it happens. Maybe I meet a more skilled negotiator than me, but like rarely, very rarely. But we fight. You want a perfect house? Let's find a perfect house. I'll go with you to the inspection. I have the construction background. I'll make sure nothing is wrong. If the inspector missed anything, I'll point it out. He'll put it in his report. We'll negotiate that. But with investors, it's mostly a price issue. Price or terms, typically. Because you might be willing to pay a little bit more if the terms are a little bit better. You know what I'm saying? Seller finance, different like levers you can pull over there. But mostly it's price. And you can explain it. Like investors, they trade price for ease. That's the trade offer, right? Most properties, if brought to market, will sell for most money. That's why I like doing on-market stuff so much. But sometimes you don't really care about the absolute net that you make. Sometimes you care more about the ease. Like if I can make this problem go away for you in a week, are you happy with that?
Yeah, I think you more or less what you're truly saying is you sell solutions,
Yes.
right? Like you identify what people's true concerns are, and you try to come to a win-win on both sides on what is the best solution to get both parties happy.
Yes. And I think that's the big thing about deal making. There's always going to be problems in deals. No deal is always 100% smooth. But your ability to find solution to these deals, it's what's going to determine whether or not you get paid.
So you're a big fan of Ray Dalio like me,
Love
right?
Ray Dalio.
Principles, right? And that book is all about like patterns, right? Like, so tell me, like, what patterns did you notice when you first started selling versus like your first deal versus your 100th deal? Like, did you start recognizing kind of patterns and how deals happen and kind of common roadblocks to avoid?
Here's what I did discover. For residential buyers, it is an emotional transaction. For investor buyers, it's a fiscal transaction.
Okay, so you're more or less talking very much about like Stephen Covey's paradigms, right? Like how people view the world.
I don't know what you're referencing, but the way you view the world is very different. And I'll give you an example. I set very clear expectations.
Sure.
If I'm working with a buyer, I'm going to tell them this, and every realtor should do this. Every agent should do this. Sit down with a buyer, you have your buyer consultation meeting. You sit down, you have your buyer broker agreement, you have some properties that you can show them, you have your entire speech.
Sure.
In your speech, you need to include this one part, this part of the script. It's the roller coaster part. You have to explain to a regular buyer, whether it be FHA house hacker, whether it be like a single family condo buyer, you're gonna tell them you're gonna go through a lot of emotional turmoils while working on this transaction. The reason you're doing that is because it's a really big transaction, probably the biggest one you've had to date in your life, and that's okay. But this is what's gonna happen. We're gonna start looking at properties. We're gonna start submitting offers on properties. Some of the offers aren't gonna get accepted. You're gonna get disappointed. It's not gonna be great. Then we're going to keep going. We're going to hold through that disappointment. Eventually, we're going to get an offer accepted. This is the peak of the transaction. Okay? Offer is accepted. The buyers are ecstatic. They're ecstatic. They're like, oh my God, I'm buying a home. I'm buying a home. And you know what happens immediately after that, Andrew? The inspection. And if you're not a real estate person and you go to a home inspection, it's one of the scariest things ever. Because you're paying a guy $1,000 to tell you everything that's wrong with the biggest transaction of your life. And how often do they find stuff on inspection reports?
Every single time.
Even on new construction.
Yeah.
So like I explain it. I'm like, you're going to go through the inspection process. You're going to hate this deal. You're not going to want to do it. Your emotions are going to be at a total low.
Yep.
But you're going to remember this conversation,
Sure.
I tell them, and we're going to go back up to the appraisal. The appraisal, it's either going to be a flat thing, a super negative thing, or a super positive thing.
Yeah. Yeah, so you're very much comparing this. I don't know if anybody invested in the stock market, but they had like that graph showing the emotional human connection in conjunction with how the stock perform, right? It very much looks like a roller coaster. Like goes up, goes down, and eventually kind of levels out, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I make sure that I explain that to them while we're doing it. Because then what happens, Andrew, is we have the inspection. They're like, I want to back out. And I'm like, dude, we talked about this. What you're feeling is totally legitimate and valid, but we knew this was going to come. It's going to come at any house you buy. Let's figure out what's the most important things. And I can read the inspection report because I have the background. I can read the inspection report and I can say, these are the big things that we should worry about. The other ones don't matter.
Yep.
Yeah,
I mean, and I mean, at the end of the day, you're really talking about reps, right? Because a single family buyer, they buy a couple properties in their whole life. Or like, I have hundreds of transactions under my belt, right? So I'm going to view a transaction very differently than a single family buyer.
Yes. And a good way to think about this, Andrew, is they are going to have, like these regular residential buyers, they're going to have this conversation maybe 4 times in their life. I have it sometimes 5 or 6 times a day. I have to be much better at this conversation than they are in order to guide them through it.
Yeah.
Totally. I have so many more reps of going through this. I have to be better for them.
Yeah. So I think one of your main takeaways was you got to manage expectations up front.
Under promise and over deliver.
I think one of the really cool things I learned when it comes to sales or even just project management in general is like how people view the world. It's called what paradigm do you view it from? Stephen Covey mentioned it, but some people view the world from a money paradigm. How much money is this decision going to cost me? Some people view the world from a work paradigm. How is this going to affect my career? Some people view the world from a family paradigm. How is this going to affect my family? And when you understand what paradigm people view the world from, then you can create the image or the feeling that they want, right?
Yeah. And I think like you understand people like, man, I feel like I'm low-key a therapist, Andrew.
Yeah, that's why that's why I got out of residential real estate.
I'm low-key a therapist,
Totally.
but I've done it for so much and now I understand all the feelings.
Oh.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh.
And now it's just like easy. Like it's easy.
I said that all the time when I was an agent. I was more a therapist, less so an actual salesperson.
Yep.
Right. So, it's a tough job. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, it's a tough job, and people think we're overpaid, man. That's the crazy part. Everybody thinks agents are overpaid just because we make big commissions, but we make big commissions because we have tons of responsibility while you're making the biggest decision of your life. So how do you balance that? Would you want to underpay your doctor? No. You wouldn't want to underpay your agent either, or your mortgage broker. These are all people that are going to be well worth their fee, unless they are mediocre. And most agents are mediocre because the barrier to entry, like you said earlier, to real estate is so low. We have so many people that have such little skill. And back in the day, like 2022 to 23, like I remember before then, but 2022, 23, 24, you put a listing on the market, was sold.
Sure.
Required no skill.
Yeah.
Now is the best time to get into real
So
estate.
so let me ask you this, and then like you bring up the fact that most agents don't know their left foot from their right foot, right? Like, so tell us the top 5% of agents, what do they do differently? Like in getting leads and having conversations and closing deals.
That's a great question. I think if you start treating it as a business, immediately you're better than 90% of people.
So what do you mean? Do you mean like maybe like have a CRM, manage your relationships,
Like I'll give
like
you an
a market?
example.
Like what do you mean by that exactly?
Imagine if Amazon couldn't track the amount of customers it had on a daily basis. You'd be like, wow, that's a really key performance indicator that they're missing
They wouldn't be able to
operate,
do their 2-day delivery,
right?
do their whole competitive advantage.
So I think a lot of people get into real estate because they want to open doors and they don't really understand how technical of a sales business it is. And when you're talking about a technical sales business, you're going to have a bunch of different metrics and a bunch of different technologies that you use.
Wait, so you're saying you have to track data in business to be successful?
That's part of it. You know, it's not the whole part, because you also, it's kind of like a plumber. Like imagine if a plumber got a bunch of leads but didn't know how to do plumbing.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so there's like the other side too, the actual selling, the closing the contracts, the executing all the paperwork, but there's also the business side of it, which is all the data operations, all the technology stack that you're using. And I feel like a lot of people focus too much time on this side, which is how do I fill out the contract? How do I open the doors? Where's the lockbox? And not enough time on what's my contact rate? What's my response rate? You know, what's my CPL? What's my CPM? Like all the actual data that they're missing.
Yeah, so you're more or less saying most people work in their business and not on their business. They don't
Correct.
they don't view it from a 10,000 foot perspective. They're just in the trenches constantly.
And Andrew, I'll add to it. I blame the brokers. Okay, because think about the person who a real estate broker is and a real estate agent is. Let's just explain the difference. Agents work for brokers. If you work for them for 2 years and you complete a certain number of transactions, you can get the next license up, which is a broker. But by law, you have to work for a broker. And these brokers are getting all these agents that are super excited, have all, like the whole world is in front of them, and you're not giving them any support. None of my this is why I started my own brokerage. None of my brokers sat down to me to talk to me about an effective marketing strategy or how to track correct KPIs or what I can do to actually generate business.
So you're looking for a business coach because you pretty much own your own business as an agent, right?
You own your own business, but you're working for somebody else's business. And if that person that you're working for isn't doing a good job giving you the tools to succeed in your business, then you're going to fail. And most agents fail. And that is very sad because there's so much opportunity in this. Like I said earlier, it's not oversaturated. You know, there's just a lack of really good execution out here. So if we could just teach agents, and it would give everybody a better rep.
Totally.
You know, and I'm going to call out some people, Andrew. There's a lot of agents. You'd be surprised, okay? A lot of agents that don't know how to use the MLS. The most basic tool for agents. You can go through it with them. You probably know some people. You're thinking of them in your head. You're like agreeing. Like, yeah, they don't know how to use the MLS. So how am I going to talk to somebody about like keeping track of the KPIs if you don't know how to use the most basic skill in the tech stack? You know, so all these things I think is what separates like the top 5% from the lower percent. Number one, who you join matters. Okay, you have to join somebody that's going to teach you all these things. Some people are confusing splits with support. They're like, oh, I have such a great split here, but like you got no support. You know, and that's an issue if you're brand new to the industry. So all those things, KPIs, marketing funnels, you know, CPM, CPLs, all the metrics that you need to track your close rate, and then figuring out how you can put the inputs to make that data come out. You know, I know if I cold call 100 people, 100 dials, they don't have to all pick up. If I do 100 dials, me personally, I'm going to get 3 to 4 leads. Okay, I know every like 27 leads, I get a deal.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, you're more or less referring to the whole concept of a marketing funnel, right? Like understanding how funnels work, understanding that marketing funnels start with a lot of inputs, and throughout the process, you filter it down, ending with a certain amount of successful closings, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And we just treat it like that. Everybody in my team, we just treat it like that. People are like, if people in my team come to me with a problem, the first thing I ask them is, let me see your KPI sheet.
It's funny because I got my bachelor's in management, I got my master's in management, I went through all these business courses, and they teach you all this stuff, but it's so freaking boring because they don't compare it to anything in real life.
Yeah.
Right. And now when you actually compare it to something that can make you some serious freaking money, it draws my interest. right?
Yeah.
I'm surprised. Who would have known, right?
Who would have known? Right? The business schools taught you important stuff. Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
it's so obvious too when you
like,
think about it.
it's funny because what is it? Who's Warren Buffett's partner? Who was his partner?
Charlie Munger.
Charlie Munger, right? And I think one of his coolest quotes that I really love was, you show me the incentives, I show you the results, right? And I think if you really understand that, you can get anything, you get any result in the world you want, right? If you set up the right incentives and create a win-win for everybody, they will do the actions you want to get the result you want.
Exactly. Yes, I agree with that fully. Charlie Munger is a hero.
Yeah.
Same with Buffett.
And then I think you bring up another point, like I think I mentioned it, Ray Dalio's principles. One of his main points in there was like, you got to understand what level of thinking you're at, right? You could be viewing things from a 10,000 foot perspective. You could be reviewing it from a cellular perspective, right? You got to understand where you are, because to truly work on your business, you have to be an observer to it. You can't be in the business, right? And I think to your point, most people through the entire, their entire business, they're just stuck in the day to day. They never step out of it as an observer, and they're just a participant.
And I think they're both important.
Absolutely.
Like, you kind of have to go through the motions and be in the motions.
Absolutely.
I'll give you an example, right? It's really cool if you work on the script and you work on the automations for the cold calling, what to do with the leads afterwards. It's really cool if you work on the list. It's really cool if you do all that. But if you're not 100% in the business present while cold calling, not going to convert. So there's this dichotomy of you have to focus a lot on the higher, we'll just call it higher order consequence. What's the contact rate? What's the input I put in? But then you also have to be very present while you're going through it. And I think one of the reasons that I've been very grateful in life, man, is because I took a step back and I slowed down. I saw that video last week and it was me as a kid, and I'm doing everything that kid dreamed of. And now I have bigger dreams, and it's very easy for me to get stuck in this, pattern of like, oh, I keep want to think more, do bigger. But like, let me take a minute, man. I've done everything I wanted to do. I'm going to keep doing everything that I want to keep doing. But for now, we're good, man. I'm extremely grateful for everything. Even the hard times, man. Like going through the first cold calls, fucking sucking ass, dude, like being so terrible. Like I said, there's a people with instinct and intelligence. I'm one of those people with instinct. It took me a while to pick it up.
Ultimately, if you were a video game character, you'd be a hardened warrior, right? But you only can come that way if people try to stab you.
Yeah.
You got to take the hits, man.
Yeah, the knight in shining armor has seen no combat.
Yeah, so no, I totally agree with you, where it's like, just think back to your 5-year-old self, any one of us, like to the person we are today, we would, a lot of times, like that's who we dream of, right? That's the life we live. And once we achieve it, we don't sit and smell the roses, right? We just want more and more and more. But yeah, to your point, you got to enjoy, once you reach the pinnacle, you should spend some time to enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what's sad? Like, there's a lot of people that will give up in this industry that we are both in before they hit it big, Andrew. That's really sad. Like, they got into real estate, they got licensed, they had all these high hopes. They weren't given the support. They started to struggle. They started not closing deals, and then they gave up. And maybe they didn't call it giving up, Andrew. Maybe they're like, oh, I'm going to go try this other thing. I'm going to go try this e-commerce thing. I'm going to go try this. But they gave up on like what their original vision was, and it's really sad. So like now that, and I had that experience in other businesses. Like I was buying Bitcoin at $2,000 and I gave up on that because it was too hard. Now that I have that perspective, man, I'm so grateful. And there's this other quote from Earl Nightingale that I really, really, really love. It says, persistence is what separates boys from men. Such a great quote. Because in real estate, you need so much persistence to just make it through. Right? Like, when did you buy your first house, Andrew?
2015, my condo in Boston.
2015, right? And then you persisted with that condo, kept appreciating. And then there was 1 year, I remember this, where you went from like 20 units to like 120 units or something crazy, right?
Yeah.
Right? That persistence, man. Not giving up just after the first condo, even though the first one I'm sure was slow. Like you were living there, not making a lot of money, to now where you're the king of Worcester. Just persisting, doing the same motion over and over again.
Yeah, I mean, I think so many people fail before they start, right? Because when you give them a situation, they tell you, why can't they do it? I can't do it because of this. I can't do it because of that. And that literally just shuts off your mind, right? But if you go into any situation with how can I get this done, there's millions of solutions to any problem, right? And that's the reason why I'm successful is because I know for a fact I can find a solution to any freaking problem. It's one call away, it's one conversation away from finding the answer I need.
I agree. And you're a great deal maker, Andrew. I feel like that quality is something we all share as deal makers. Like, give me the problem.
Yeah, and then like what I would say is like when you and I do deals, there's really not much negotiation. I just tell you how it is, and you either say yay or nay.
You go through it. Typically, you say yay or nay, and oftentimes you say yay because like I underwrote it. I'm like, I know Andrew. What's he gonna put for vacancy rates? What's he gonna put for that? You know, I just plug my numbers into my calculator, and I'm like, Andrew will pay this much for the building, and then you'll be like, no, $4,000 less, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah, and I think that's a big lesson everybody should take away is like the thing about real estate is the numbers look great, but something will always go wrong.
Yeah.
And you have to build in a contingency.
Yeah.
You have to. There's no other way. Because I guarantee things will go wrong more than they will go right.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And this is why it's so important to partner with people in real estate if you're in real estate. Like I know some people that partner up with like stock people and business people to do their deals in real estate. But if you're trying to partner up with an operator, best they be in real estate so that when the shit happens, when the business plan doesn't come to fruition exactly, like they understand. Like if we did a deal together and you're like, oh, Marco, we found termite damage, we have to reframe this floor. I'm not going to be like, oh no, unbelievable. Like yeah, it happens. We didn't know. Once we opened the wall, we found out.
That goes back to your point, managing expectations. It could be in the form of a client, it could be in the form of a partner, but I think going into a situation up front with everybody on the same page will resolve so much tension and tension down the road.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely, yeah. And real estate's a fun industry, Andrew. I hope more people get into it. I really do. I don't think it's oversaturated. I think people got to find the right people to work with and to grow together. And then, I think it's going to be better for everybody.
So you're on this big journey right now to start this huge brokerage, this nationwide brokerage is your dream, right? Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of agents. Thousands of agents?
Thousands.
Okay. So there's so many agents out there already, but they don't do crap, right? Like, how do you train actual agents to close and not just stay busy?
That's a great question. And I think there's a big difference between being busy and being effective. Massive difference.
Absolutely.
I'm going to teach my agents how to be effective. Okay, they're gonna come to me, and I have imagine it like a video game skill tree.
Yeah,
a bunch of different skills. If I see somebody that's young, hungry, doesn't mind being on the phone, I'm like, okay, we're gonna put you on the cold calling track. Let's say we have somebody that's a little bit more shy and wants to do more inbound leads. Okay, we're gonna talk about direct mail marketing.
Wait. So you got classes at your brokerage?
Yes.
Like I could be like a rogue or a warrior.
Class.
Oh, I'd be an investor class. Ooh.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, I'll take it.
I wouldn't give you any leads for a single family.
You don't got a Super Saiyan class over there?
No.
God damn it.
But we're going to break it down into these different classes, and then we're going to offer training on those things in particular. And the training that we're going to offer them is going to be very effective. Okay, and when I say training, I'm like, okay, let's just say guy wants to come in, he wants to do cold calling to build his business because it's cheap, it's effective, it's fast. Like, okay, sit down with me, load up your dialer, let's start dialing. Okay, I take notes. We go through it. Okay, this is where you went wrong. Work on this. Let's meet next week. Let's do it again. Like, actually train these agents. Actually spend time with them. Real estate's the only job in the world, Andrew, where you join a brokerage and you don't get any training. Like, you work in a restaurant, they're like, this is where we keep the cheese and the burgers. This is where we keep the beer. And they teach you how to change a tap and whatnot. Real estate, they're like, okay, you sign the independent contractor agreement, go do some business, we'll collect splits. And that is so backwards. So backwards for such an important role. So in my brokerage, we're going to do very hands-on training on everything that's needed until they can hit a minimum benchmark. Okay, the minimum benchmark in my brokerage is $150,000 a year. If you're not making $150,000 a year, okay, and we have a 6-month period where you're not expected to close anything. After the 6-month period, you have to do $75,000 worth of gross commission income every 6 months. In my opinion, that's the minimum you need to survive in our area. And if you don't meet that benchmark, you have one warning and then you're fired. But I'm going to give the people all the tools they need to hit at least that minimum standard. Okay? Yeah. And I think a lot of brokerage, another thing that they struggle is they have these non-producing agents, Andrew, and it poisons the well. You can't poison the well with something like this. People aren't closing. They're just allowed to be in the office. Like, no. We're not for everybody. I'll just say we are not for everybody. or for a few select group of
Well,
people.
I mean, you're, like you said, you're we all know you're the average of the 5 people you associate yourself with, right? So if 2 people are not hustlers, that's literally taking down the average of the 5 as a whole,
Yep.
right? So this brings up my next question. What daily habits directly has attributed to your sales success?
Okay. I'll give you my typical day. All right. I wake up, and the first thing I do is I look at my checking account. Then I go on social media. I'm not going to act like I'm above everybody. Like, I still go on social media in the morning, but I start with my checking account and oftentimes Robinhood. Okay. Then I drink my coffee in front of my computer as I go through my email. Most of my work is following up. Okay. Most of the money's in the follow up. So I spend most of my time following up. Like, hey, I made you an offer a week ago. Hey, did you make a decision on this? Like, just going through that. And those are the like, man, having a CRM. How are agents not having CRMs?
So one of the habits you do is you dedicate time to daily follow up.
Tons of time, but just tons of time to go through the CRM, go through the KPIs, go through the deal numbers, go through the general ledger. That's pretty much my day to day, and meetings, training. Like, I probably train 2 people a day.
So more or less, you go through the main, you keep track and go through the main actions that will really push the ball forward in regards to actually closing deals. So you just focus on the KPIs and just plow at them on a daily basis.
Right. I'll look at my KPIs from somebody in my team. I'm like, oh, this guy isn't reaching out to enough people. I call him up. I'm like, hey, man, everything okay? Notice your KPIs are a little bit slow. Do you need help with anything?
Yeah. So, I think this brings up the next point is like grinding's great, but at the end of the day, we all have to kind of enjoy life. Like, what do you do to reset after a brutal day or a brutal week, really?
So I think grinding is overrated. I'm just going to say it. I don't know if this is your experience as well. Most of the wealthy people I know aren't grinding. They're not. They just figured out a better way to do it more efficiently. And because it was so efficient to do it, they could do it over and over again. Okay? I think grinding might be appropriate in the beginning.
I think it's required in the beginning because you got to build a bank.
You have to build a bank. It might be required in the beginning for a very short period of time. But after you do that, you can't have grinding and longevity.
Totally.
And if you want to make a lot of money, you have to have longevity. And you're only going to do something long enough if you enjoy doing the actions.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you're not going to do it.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
I think there has to be a balance. Now, for me, Andrew, you noticed about me, I don't mind working until 8 or 9 p.m. at night. Doesn't affect me at all. I don't consider it grinding.
Because it's not work.
It's not work. Yeah, it's like, okay, I'm going to hit up some of my friends. I'm going to hit up some of my investors. I'm going to hit up some of my clients. If you have clients where you feel like you can't even drink a beer with them, probably don't work with them.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's like buy back your time, right? Like do what gives you energy and delegate or eliminate what doesn't, right? Yeah, and I agree with that 100%.
Right? What do I do to reset after a really tough week, man? Honestly, nothing. Like, I just deal with it. I'm like, this sucks, and then I let it suck. There's this great quote, I forgot who said it, but they say in life you have to experience the full range of emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Sucking is just one of the emotions that you feel. If you don't have the suck, you don't have the joy. If there's no rain, there's no sunshine. So if I have a shit day, I'm like, this is one of the shit days. I make a note of it. I'm like, shit day. Marco, remember this. And then I let it be a shit day, and then I move on the next day. And yeah, some days are shittier than others. Some days are better than others. But like, every day is fine. Every day is a blessing. If I think about a super hard day, Andrew, from like 4 years ago compared to a super hard day now, man, I got nothing to complain about.
Totally. So, kind of to wrap this up, like, what's next for Marco from an investor standpoint, as well as from a starting your brokerage standpoint?
So, from an investing standpoint, I think I'm going to buy much less developed property. I think I'm going to primarily shift to being a new construction developer, both for multifamily and single families and condos. I think I'm going to start building more projects than I'm buying projects. The second thing is the Hive. The Hive is about to launch. I spent the whole year building the entire backend systems, all the automations, all the funnels, all the scripts, all the things the agents need to be successful. And right now I'm testing it with 5 people. And the 5 people are killing it. One person joined the team 2 weeks ago, already got 3 listings with no real estate sales experience prior. I have another guy that joined super green, 18, 19, did real estate for 2 years, did no transactions, brought in 2 listings. So like, I'm testing the systems with them, making sure that they're working. And I think Q1 next year, we're going to launch. And next year, the goal is 100 agents joining the Hive. And that doesn't mean 100 agents with 20 agents doing all the sales. 100 agents, each agent making at least 150 grand a year minimum, like successful agents, people that can live their life with that. Once I do that, which I will do that. Once that's done, we're going to start expanding in New York, New Hampshire, Vermont, and Maine, probably Florida as well. That's going to be the year 2 expansion. Then year 3, all of East Coast. Year 4, all of West Coast, and then we're going to fill the gap.
Sounds like you have a nice intentional plan in place. You definitely thought of it from a 10,000 viewpoint perspective.
Yep.
So give our listeners a couple book recommendations on really allowing you to become the entrepreneur you are today.
Okay, I'm going to give some specific ones, right? I think if you're a real estate agent trying to work with investors, first you must speak their language. So the book on rental property investing from Brandon Turner is a phenomenal book. Okay, it's just going to teach you all the terminology you need in order to talk to these people.
Mm-hmm.
I think in terms of sales, there's a few really, really good ones. Sell or Be Sold, How to Win Friends and Influence People from Dale Carnegie. That one I've probably read 7-8 times. Way of the Wolf. There's a ton of great books.
Mm-hmm.
If there was one book that I would recommend above all others, probably be Think and Grow Rich.
Yep.
Phenomenal book.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very good book. I probably read it countless times as well.
Same. 7-8 times.
Yeah.
And I still pick it up.
Great recommendations. So for people wanting to learn more about Marco, maybe bringing him deals, maybe wanting to join your team, where can they find you?
They can find me at thehivebrokerage.com. They can find me on social media under my full name. Facebook. Yeah. Online. They'll find me. For the people who are meant to find me, they will find me.
Cool. Just don't try to pronounce his last name. That's where you might mess up, right?
That's all right. Thank you for having me, Andrew.
Yeah. So I just want to thank Marco for giving us the amazing value he did, teaching us all about sales and how to be a kick-ass real estate agent. Definitely check him out if you're looking for more skills. And appreciate you watching the podcast. See you at the next one. Adios.